I have a lot of a lot of thoughts and all of that. I guess I'm just talking. I'm just talking. I'm talking about Fargo first cuz I just finished the 96 movie after I watched all of the series, which is seasons 1 through 5. Um because I love how the series is about um it's a cop show, but it's definitely ACAB. It's definitely all cops are bastards because it really proves how fucked up it is, which I knew that it was giving a lot of for you to assume that they don't support the the justice system because it proves you in all of this time of the series to show you how fucked up it is. I'll explain. But with the movie, once I watched the movie, the 96 movie, it only barely looked about ACAB, which you wouldn't notice that, honestly. The only thing they did is they have this smart chief in a small town, and it's very it makes sense that only one of them in the cop city, the what do you say, precinct, it makes sense that only one of them would be smart because they don't need to have everyone efficient on anything because it's a small town, that they only need one smart person. So when you had Margie, Margie is the only cop who's smart while she's there. But the other ones are more obedient to whatever she says because she's smart and they get it. So it was very if it's anything, it just says, guess what? Cops are incompetent unless they're very rare. And that's not even you don't even get to that with the 96 movie. It's like that's like if you're reaching, you know, which you will because when you see the fucking movie, I mean the show, the series, it's very very ACAB, which is perfect because it shows you a lot of stuff. You start with season 1 and you just have the people in 2006, and um you see a femme cop. Like Margie was respected in her small town. When you start with the Fargo the series, they start proving that guess what? The whole system is definitely not for the people. It's only for the cops. And the full of the cops is that a it's a circle jerk for men. And most of the time they don't even respect the respect is is very patriarchal, but in a way of is just full of a lot of abuse. They don't have a sense of justice for anyone except for within the system that they have in the precinct, in whatever, the law enforcement. They only care for their own. Um, because we have this one cop in another city and another in Bemidji. And we start with all these people, and both of them get bullshit because they fuck it up in some way, as in they're trying to say, guess what, this might mean more than you're expecting it is. And then they still get all this flack to them because it's not what they're used to for all of the cop stuff. And that's only based on the probably Noah Hawley is definitely definitely leftist enough to hate the fucking cops because most of the time we don't even I don't even think the way the writing is doesn't even support mm, they understand that the whole system of the government is fucked up. Even if we have IRS in the third season when you have an IRS agent, even then we're like, I don't know about that. Maybe they do support IRS because that guy definitely has OCD and got no flack from his job. So maybe they don't mind the IRS. They definitely fucking hate the cops though, because I know they definitely understand that cops, even if you wanted to assume policing would be efficient, they know that it will never happen here. Because we start with this one with this femme lady who gets ignored with all her good intuition and sense of justice. Um, and the whole thing about Fargo, the whole time when you have a main cop, the main cop is neurodivergent in some way. You have the first two seasons. The first season is the woman. The second season is her father because it goes back in time. Because they just go based on, and nothing is real. This is just a good idea for what they thought of what people would expect. If you found that stuff in real life, it would be similar to what we're expecting, but it would be more coincidental than we get. Um, I can't tell how much you would say coincidental in Fargo than you would get in real life. You really do get a lot of coincidences in real life that it probably would look very similar to how it is on Fargo. And people are very used to people fuck up a lot, and so I don't think it would be very you could probably pick up a bunch of cases with hits from every single thing in America and put it on Fargo. And that's probably what they've been doing this whole fucking time. Which is why they probably were like, holy shit, cops suck. Because after they figured out, so the Coen brothers did the 96. They did not, they didn't do much to the writing or directing. And the show is produced from them. So they gave some money for the Fargo. So we get to keep the nice music, the fucking great music, the great humor. Sometimes it even got funnier in the fucking show than you did in the movie for real. Um, and always have, usually, most of the acting is almost always fantastic. Only time we have like bad acting, it's because it was kids. And they did value having kids who look related to the grown adults for the characters of certain seasons because they go back and forth in the series that it ties it all together, which is nice and good. But it's always ACAB because when you have an actual person who has a sense of justice, which the first two seasons are definitely autistic. I don't know if they have also ADHD, but the sense of justice and rules, um, which is funny because it means that the whole system of cops and law enforcement is not made for the neurodivergent. They don't want you to think about people because the law enforcement is like a cult with the same idea of it's us versus the world, and they don't view people as people, it's civilians, like the way you do as army. So a fed is a fed, cop is a cop, even a soldier is a soldier. Everything that we have in America is built on a whole bunch of cult um, themes going on for our whole thing. And cops, we all know, started with bounty hunters. It's all based on protecting capital from the beginning of protecting literal humans as um as slaves or objects to use. So we didn't have in America, you already know this, everybody should already know this. Cops was created as bounty hunters, and then when the Civil War happened, they were like, well shit, we still need something. That's how you start with the whole prison system so that they can still take people as their slaves and all of that. And they bring up a bunch of laws and all that to figure out what they can commodify. The government itself, because it's owned by the rich people, and the rich people always need something to appease their their money addictions, that they would always be needing that, and rich people always controlled a lot of the government of stuff, because guess what, the white Americans came from Britain, and Britain's a monarchy. What's a monarchy? A bunch of people who inbreed to maintain all of their wealth, which means they are the ones who choose all of the laws on the land, because they're the ones who are the rich one. It's always been the rich people who own all of this stuff. And of course, the white people kept a lot of percentage of the beliefs that they had from there and maintained it here, because then they believe, well, we want to do it that way, even though they're doing the same things that they did in Britain. So they didn't even change in so much a way. They just got worse, honestly. Um, so I know when you have the Fargo series, you still have the bounty hunter um, system of cops, and then you have people who are good apples, and those are not supported for giving a shit about humans. So they're like, we have all of our rules, which is the rules that they have is to protect capital no matter what, that they do not need to read on instincts. They do not read on to any justice for people. They only have to focus on making sure that not only we're safe, the cops, the precinct is all safe, and the shareholders who are the ones who lobby for all of this stuff, which is means that every single season you have a big old important cop, because they're involved in the case, big old case, and every single case is based on capital. And the versions of capital, they have to figure out, like, why won't the rule that we have as the lay people, working people, we have a sense of rule that we hear it from propaganda, that cops are supposed to protect and serve. Supreme Court does not support this. They definitely said that they only need to protect and serve those who are within their how you said this, those who are in the precinct wherever it is. So when there's people outside of the cop precinct buildings, everywhere else in the world, it's not actually a requirement on cops at all, because the Supreme Court said, guess what? They don't have to. They do not have to look it up. I don't give a shit. It's like 96, which is funny. Probably that's why I'm sure this has an influence into why Fargo got into this, because the case that started into the Supreme Court for a woman with a an ex-husband who came and killed all of their kids, tried to kill her, and killed himself in a precinct. Supreme Court said she tried to take it all the way up to be like, guess what? Nobody listened to this, that my ex was stalking us and I already knew he was going to steal my kids. Supreme Court was like, well, it's not their job. Cops can only give a shit about things that are within their building. So if they're not in custody, that's what I'm saying. If it's not in custody, they don't need to give a shit. That was in between 96 and 20 that she, because courts cases take a long time to go through the courts. So I believe it started around 96. So Fargo the movie was filmed before the Supreme Court even agreed that cops don't have to protect it. So I'm sure that is an influence to why Fargo, the series, has gotten more ACAB, because the Supreme Court hadn't ruled that yet. It hadn't gotten up that far. And so, Fargo the series, I love Fargo so much, so much. The humor gets me every time. Um, I love um, it has the same humor, which is sometimes actual physical humor with murder. I got that from Utopia, the British one, that one is a little more serious than Fargo, but they have the same humor, which always gets me every time. And then with Fargo going on, that I Utopia also supported the hate of the rich people, but in a different way because they also are just viewing based on the population, which isn't really the real issue for our. It doesn't really work to the real world because we have this idea on handling the population that doesn't really happen to America. I mean, in the world right now, because currently the ones who make the planet do the worst is very rich people with a bunch of jets. Um, they're fucking companies, they're factories that fuck it up. You wouldn't say like the population isn't the thing that's the problem. It's the the few who are depleting the entire planet and all of that. But Utopia does want to focus on the population versus the actual rich. And so that's a whole other thing. Utopia is very good. You would want to watch that. It's a little bit better than Fargo. Um, but I don't know. They're British, so they probably have I don't know how they view the world. We already know that Americans have all this it's always capital capital capital. And so we know that as true leftists, we know. And so when you start with the first season of Fargo, sorry, I'm all over the place. I don't edit. You start with I fucking forgot her name. I will never remember their name because we always forget them. Oh fuck, I wish I remembered their name. The first season you have a good cop and she's definitely autistic. They won't say that, bitch. But she has this sense of justice, but also a good sense of instinct and awareness for pattern recognition. The cop doesn't. Law enforcement do not want any of that actual pattern recognition. Because guess what? Patterns are. Patterns is a system. If you have a certain amount of patterns, it's a fucking system. If you know about pattern recognitions, then you would be aware that guess what? If this is a pattern, then I'm going to see this pattern and I'm going to see this pattern, and you're going to get all the way up the ladder for all these rich people. They don't want that. So when you have somebody who understands not only a sense of justice, as well as having the pattern recognition, it gets in the way of the cop purpose, the way reason that we have it at all, which is bounty hunters and capital protection. So when you first start with it, immediately she gets fucked over. So does another guy in another city, and they definitely do not get supported at all, even though they've been right the whole time. Um, then you get in season two. It goes back into time to the first cop. The woman has you go and see her dad when she was a kid. That he also has. He's still a piece of shit as a dude, like lightly. He's like a better dude than you would expect. He still doesn't understand the feminine issue at all because he doesn't know about if it's a justice from what he's a person is used to, then they will maintain that because it's a built rule that they support and agree to. Um which is funny because autistic people can take what a certain propaganda has been swallowed into them, and they'll see if that actually is something they agree to or not. But it does mean that if they accept it, they will maintain it strongly. In which case, neurotypicals don't view things that way. They do not think of as everything is black and white. Neurotypicals think it's always gray. There is no black and white. I can tell you that, like, the neurotypical will say, here's the rule, but it's a general. And they don't view it as, oh, there's this and that. which is funny because you still have that type of thing where it's a general rule and then they don't. Like if you think about with abortion being an issue, that conservatives would say it's a general rule. Nobody deserves to have having an abortion. And then you would have people would be like, well, but then I don't want to have this baby. It's going to kill me. I don't have the money for it. I don't have this and that. So I'm out of the general rule. So they don't even realize that they create a rule and somehow they forget that the law applies to all. And so that's why autistics are like, well, the law applies to all of us, therefore, this means it's bad because you've told us that everything applies to everyone, and yet there's a weird general meaning which you have loops for a bunch of certain people, and they always get flack. So for the woman, for her dad in the 70s, and then you also get that in season 3. You have season 3 was good. Season 3 is probably my favorite season because because of the because of I'm still remember her name, Nikki, because she's my favorite character there. Of course I'm gonna support a sex worker. Yeah, she's not even a sex worker. She's just well, she is, and she isn't because it's so subtle that you don't even understand all of it. She falls in love with one of her targets, and and she goes for revenge because she didn't realize he was actually a good enough person that she would have wanted to maintain that. Anyway, with that cop, it's another woman, and that's in like 2014. See, estimation and all of that. It doesn't, nothing's real. But this cop is also autistic. So you had all 3 seasons are autistic. Or they said they're autistic, no, but season 3 gets even more because she starts telling to somebody, and there was this lady, this rich lady who comes in and she was like, um, for the cop, when one of this rich lady is coming in for um an interview, she said something as an idiom, and the lady made a sarcastic joke, or it was either something literal or sarcastic. And I can't tell if she was being, this is another version of autism. She said this very sarcastically, so much that it was dry and you wouldn't understand, or she straight up said something very literal that she didn't read the joke. So this lady, she was like, that's a phrase. And she condescends her to see, like, guess what? That's just a phrase. It doesn't apply. I didn't mean it's actually raining. And she did that. And then there was another time, like, the cop goes and then comes back in, and the lady says another phrase, and she goes, and before the cop can make an either joke or literal reading, she gets interrupted immediately because she goes, "Oh, that's a phrase. Don't even say that." So even season 3, it's definitely autistic because ladies know about autistic women immediately, because here's the reason why autistic. Women who understand about autistics is because they have this extreme rule because of the way women are, that they're supposed to be very private in general because they're subjugated be into men, that they don't even have the access to freedom of their speech, their dress, their anything. So ultimately they create this entire set of rule and hidden rules because they're so private based on the way we're expected for men in the male world, that They don't even want to hear about ladies, so ladies can't even share themselves for who they are. And so they perpetuate the same rule that women aren't supposed to be always speaking as often, which means things have to be hidden, which means everything is supposed to be in a version of quiet versus not. I don't know what I'm going to do. My neighbor is doing something and I'm not going to be able to do this. I have to pause it. Okay. I decided I'm going to keep talking even though you're going to hear something in the background and it's going to disrupt me, but it's going to maintain it because I know it's going to take 30 minutes. It's between 30 to an hour and I don't want to lose my thought. So I'm going to continue the video. Nobody views my stuff that much and that's okay. So I don't know. Anyway, so you have this whole rule and sense of a whole system with neurotypical women that autistic women can't understand it enough to maintain it the way that women are supposed to do, which is just based on your subjugation of men, your subjugation from men. Um, that they fucking hate that autistic women do not support this whole thing, even though it's a perpetuation based on a sexism and misogyny. They still hold it. Ladies still hold it because they at least like to have a version of control, which is to them a weird hidden rule and all that. So they definitely know when somebody's autistic and they definitely bully immediately because it's the only way they can fight someone is if they're not like them. So every time you have a system of whatever it is, you have a hierarchy, which means because it's a pyramid scheme, always, I want to have people underneath me that I can bully. That person above them wants to bully them, and so on and so on. Um, so that one was great because that season in 3, it does, and it's also the funniest season so far. I'll be honest. I've seen also all 5 seasons, and I think they'll do a 6th season. I fucking hope. And the ending is so good that you have to wonder if they always have you concerned because the cop thinks that she will win from the person from the person. Oh, it's gonna bother me. Mm. I don't know if you can't hear it that well. I'm sorry. Um, ultimately, from the season 3, you have a bunch of capitalism, and you have um this boss who tries to have a laundering company that he buys and all that. Towards the end, he does get caught from her, the cop, and whoever agrees to her. But she goes higher up into home security. And the very end of that season, he's like talking to her. She goes, "You're gonna be in prison forever." This guy goes, "You're actually gonna see a guy come in here who's gonna let me go immediately within 5 minutes." And you don't see the ending. But we know as leftists that the fucking rich man is gonna get away for sure. Because we know that the cops, the whole system is capital protections. So this man with a bunch of capital, which isn't that much, because it was supposed to be 2014. They didn't have as much billionaires as we have in 2025. Um, and he was, hiding a lot of stuff. So a lot of hidden stuff. So even though he does get caught from the IRS, he will not be charged officially because he has enough money to buy his freedom, which is only a few people can do that, right? Season 4 was great also. They think that Chris Rock does decent. He does great because he's a fucking comedian. Um, I don't think he did as well as someone who's not a comedian, but he did as best he could. And they had a kid actor who wasn't as good at it, which is fine because you're a child and you can do whatever you want. They wanted to have the look because in season 2 there's a cool, very cool black guy who does a bunch of works for Kansas City mob and all of that. We get to go back to see why he is the way he is because we go see in the 50s. Um, Chris Rock does pretty fucking good. It's another verse. At least we got far enough that we can see that you in season 4 is actually very good. I just like Nikki so much more because it's modern, but it's great to understand about the way they had because of all the the same fucking systems we always have with the rich, the poor, and the people who always try. And it's the dream, the American dream that people still do it even though it's not doesn't exist for if you're black, brown, and especially in the early times, Irish, Jewish, Italian. So you had a lot of people based on those, and they're trying to make their money because they knew that they would never make money from the American dream. The American dream is only for very white people, and white was only British descent, and they wouldn't say that you were from Italy, for you were from Germany, who was, any of that was not supported. And of course, black people, because Black America, they're the descents of the slaves that the white people always had to build the entire country and all that. Um, it's great. I think we get more of a female director for I don't know I can't remember if there's someone who's Dana Gonzalez, and she does a lot in season 4 and season 5, and I don't remember if she's in 3 or not. Um, but I feel like the direction was probably a man in the first and second, maybe third season, and then the fourth and fifth is a lady. And then you have the cop in season 4. The cop is fucking corrupt because I don't know, you just had a bunch of versions of mobs, and if you pay for the cops, you can have freedom, which is what you already have when you see it from season 3. If you have enough money, you can control the law enforcement. It's the whole system, the idea of general rule, as in it's mostly for poor people, it's mostly for the layman, it's mostly the working class. Rich people are the loop. And then we have all of these so your cop in season 4 is you have one person who is federal. He's marshal or something. He's coming in to grab people who are it's literal bounty hunting because there's 2 ladies who escaped from prison. And then you have a marshal trying to literally bounty hunt, and then you also have a cop who's there. The bounty hunter, the marshal is Mormon, so he has a sense of justice, but they have a great season. They've plenty of scenes where he's involved, especially the one when he's talking with Chris Rock. That one is good. And then our local is someone who is OCD. And so people fucking hate him, and it's very easy for him to be like, well, whatever. I might as well take the corruption because I'm not going to be supported from the system anyway. I don't even know how he gets to the point. Nobody really knows why he started taking bribes, honestly. But he gets better at the end anyway. He takes his death and he's like he tries to be better as a cop, which is another form of the fact that he goes against his own corruption is not supported for the law enforcement and all of that. But he gets a lot of fucking flack. It's not as subtle, it's very direct, where people are like, you're a piece of shit because you have all of these twitches and rules that he has. Yeah. And then season 5 is great. I did the very first episode or two in season 5. You have this lady who's like being kidnapped, and you have the question of holy shit, does it mean she, because we know about Fargo immediately starts with somebody who wants a ransom. The movie is about a ransom, and so they didn't want somebody to die, they just wanted ransom from it. And so in season 5 you're kind of like, is she trying to fake her own kidnapping so she gets money? But there was no money involved in it, so I was like, if there's no ransom and she doesn't even contact to the cops and there's no one asking for money, then you have to wonder it. And I'm like, that's probably an X. And then we find out, oh great, she's a child bride, and she's trying to fit some stuff. That's a great season 2. That one is awesome because you have one cop who kind of tries to fix it, but you also have a bunch of law enforcement with a bunch of militia who is the one who has the child bride. And John Hamm does a fucking great on that one, okay? And it's just really show you all of this, how um it's like the cops are very he's very good at what he does, and the system that he has is for what people agree to his section of land. But because it was so small amount of land, that when people do fight him, that he can be removed because people are there for it. That's the thing about money and capital. It has to be drastic because his small amounts of that means they can't be supported because he doesn't have enough to afford for his own stuff. So even if you want to consider being controlling of people, you can only do it with a vast amounts of money. But he did have a long time of abusing a lot of people while he had them, and then a great ending for a lot of revenge, which was a very great to see. You also see, um, anyway, it's an awesome season. All of them are very great seasons. Everything shows you a version of why uh, the law enforcement is no good. It shows you in different forms of it so that you understand why it sucks, but you don't know. It's not it's not direct. You do not understand this unless you already know what the um thing that you're trying to assume. What do you say this? There's a word I'm looking for, but I don't remember it. That ultimately it's only if you understand the assumptions that they're using in something. There's a word that I'm missing. So the whole ass thing is for if you know why cops are bad in the first place. So yeah, definitely watch Fargo. If you understand a little bit about the American system, which is always bad. And you'd even have a cool character in season 5, because sometimes the seasons of Fargo has a really bullshit something that goes on every now and again, but the bullshit isn't even the bullshit is kind of like, mm, I guess it is. They start with aliens in season 2. Mm. Is there something crazy in season 4? Not really. Season 5, there's someone who's immortal. And it's so crazy because they have these outlandish things that don't even, you don't even bat an eyelash. Because honestly, it's like the outlandish part is the fucking system of law enforcement. So, yeah, that's all. Watch Fargo. I hope Noah Hawley definitely is very. I don't even know if the Coen brothers even had that understanding, or I don't even know if they meant for ACABs in the movie, because it's not as as overt as you get in the series. However, it's not overt enough for people to assume that it's someone who already know about ACAB. The frustration of it that you have each season is very, very true, which is why I think they pick up a bunch of cases around the world, time, and all of that and put it in here. Because if you go Google it for, is there a case based on blah, 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 there is something will be similar to it or influenced by it. I don't even know that. I'm not even Googling that on what Noah Hawley started with. I don't know if he looked for cases or not. I just know because I knew from a bunch of true crime that cops do not support anyone. They don't listen to civilians almost inherently. That it's only if you have something very, very provable to the court that they will take it. It's more of like it's not only you have to be proven guilty, you're proven innocent until proven guilty, but you more of have that for anything else but reverse. So we also assume you're not a victim. They do the same, it's the same rule of you're innocent until proven guilty. You're also not a victim until you can prove you were a victim. And so you you assume that's from the court, but in the law enforcement, it's very reverse. Um yeah. I don't I love Fargo, and it's I probably will rewatch this probably every 2 years because this shit always gets me, man. If you I still watch cartoons as like something that I want to see and all that. Every now and again I have time, I will be watching some Fargo because I love Fargo so much. They must be doing a season 6. In which case, what do we think the season 6 is gonna be? We already know that's 2019, which means we're going to be getting something old as fuck. Are we going to get in the 20s or are we getting back in the 90s? I feel like they might actually go to something in the 90s because they kept going back too far. Oops. They kept going back too far that I don't know that they're going to keep going further. You know what I mean? I don't know. Are they going to go into build a case in 90s or straight up the 20s, 30s. I wouldn't be too, I don't know, they could do something with that. You just didn't have as much. There's always, I don't know, if they keep going further, that means they have to study more on the American history for all of the cases that we really had over there. So, I love Fargo.